Hi, we're going to take a look at 4 terms today to help us understand MAP growth a little bit better so that when we take a look at a deeper in-depth look into MAP growth that we truly understand how we're going to use this tool to help support our students. Adaptive assessment is a more personalized look at an assessment, at the look at the student to see where their strengths and weaknesses are. Rather than giving that class a test from 1 to 20, where we understand what they can and can't do, a very black and white look at the student, we're going to see where the student's strengths and weaknesses lie. That assessment is going to measure growth at the moment the student is taking it. So they're going to constantly have an up and down of the levels based on their answers. As they answer number 1, if they're very secure in that, the content will get harder and more challenging in question 2 and will continually to increase the content of the questions to see where their skills lie. If students start to struggle or begin struggling, the programming of the adaptive assessment pushes the level of skill back until you can find where students are successful and where their strengths and weaknesses lie. Gives us a more accurate look at student skill sets. We take that accurate look at that and take a look at normative data. Normative data is where we find the baseline, is where we get our range of scores. We're going to take, say, 200 students, put them in a room, give them the test, and from that 200, we're going to be able to develop averages of what students can and can't achieve to develop a baseline. Then when other students take the test, we can see where they perform in that average on the other from what the other students have done on their testing. It gives us the ability to look and develop skills where the students are. We can show parents, we can show other people looking at student achievement where that student ranges based on those 200 other scores. Are they performing above? Are they performing at the same level? Are they performing slightly below where the average student would perform? We take all of that normative data. It's based on something called the RIT score. An RIT score is a stable scale, just like feet and inches, just like hours and minutes. Those things stay the same no matter what you're measuring. A foot is a foot, an inch is an inch. It doesn't matter what you're using it for, it's always the same. So the RIT score stays the same. You're looking at a score of 20, and 20 is a 20 no matter whether you're testing a kindergartner or an 8th grader. A 20 means the same thing. It's stable. It helps us get an accurate measure of student performance no matter the grade, no matter the age. It gives parents a more concrete understanding of where their student is performing when we can show an RIT score saying this is stable. So if you think about a growth chart that you would put to measure your child's height, 3 feet is 3 feet. Doesn't matter if they reach 3 feet at 2 years old or at 8 years old, they're still going to be that same 3 feet, means the same thing. So when we look at reading, math, science, the level of that RIT score shows us where the student is performing in that moment. We take their scores that they've received and we put them on that scale so that we can see where students need to be based on where they are at the moment. It helps us set attainable goals for them. If a student is scoring, say, at that 20, whenever we work with them, we give them that individualized instruction, those interventions. Can we reach a 30? Can we make a 10-point gain and the RIT score. So this is where they're at the beginning of the year. We can show growth by raising those RIT scores to show where they will be with the individualized instruction that we're able to give. We're able to take that RIT score and get some information from it so that we can adjust our instruction to fit within the zone of proximal development. The zone of proximal development is the distance between where the student is actually performing to where they can perform with instruction, with support, with guidance. A zone of proximal development says that here is where the student is within this skill, and these are all of the attainable skills within that zone. So if a student is in phonemic awareness, we're not going to ask them to read a chapter book. That's not within their zone of proximal development yet. They're still working with phonics skills, thinking about letters and making sense of the sounds. They're not ready to pick up a chapter book. That's not an accurate look at what their skill set would be at that moment, but sight words would be possibly within their zone of proximal development. Reading basic sentence picture books, maybe with one or two repeated text throughout the book, that would be within their zone of proximal development. We can target our instruction for the skills within their zone of proximal development to see gains. We don't want to go with outside of the zone of proximal development. We won't see the same growth in students developmentally. That's not where they're at right then. We can target our instruction so that they will grow and succeed within a certain skill set. We're going to use that RIT score to say, this is the RIT score, and within that score, these are the skills where students should be able to achieve, should be able to make growth. They're all within that proximal development zone. And so we can target our instruction to give support to the students in that area. And then as they grow, their zone of proximal development changes and the skill sets change to become more complex and more challenging, so that we're always growing that learner in the area where they can be successful. We're not looking at unattainable goals for that student. We're keeping it very manageable with adult guidance and with adult instruction. They are able to achieve within that area. All four of these terms are interwoven. They all sort of work together to help us understand MAP growth. The information that we get from this assessment will help us determine where students are within the norm, within the range of all of the other students who take the test. We're going to get that RIT score to help us determine where we should target our instruction so that student success is met.